Thank you for making time. Let's get you informed. Now, tonight, President William Ruto has once again effected changes touching on principal secretaries and envoys.
In the new changes communicated by the head of public service, Felix Koskei, Professor Edward Kisiangani, who has gained the bad reputation of fighting media freedom, has been clipped as a principal secretary and instead relegated to a position as an advisor to the president.
And as Jeff Kirui now reports, ODM leader Raila Odinga has reaped big in the 14 new nominees to serve as principal secretaries.
The axe has fallen on Professor Edward Kisiangani, who has been stripped from the position of Principal Secretary State Department of Broadcasting and Telecommunications and moved to a position as advisor and member of President's Council of Economic Advisors. Kisiangani is among the casualties in President William Ruto's reorganization of the government, communicated by Head of Public Service Felix Koskei. Engineer Peter Tum, who has been serving as the PS in the Ministry of Sports, has been relieved from the ministry and appointed the ambassador to the troubled Democratic Republic of Congo. In the new changes, President William Ruto has swapped Basic Education Principal Secretary Belio Kipsang with PS for Immigration and Citizen Services Professor Julius Bitok. Harry Kimtai has been moved from the Ministry of Health to the Ministry of Mining and Blue Economy, replacing Elijah Mwangi, who has been moved to the Ministry of Sports. In the reorganization, 14 new principal secretaries have been nominated. Some of the notable names are allies of ODM leader Raila Odinga, who has now reaped big from the broad-based government. They include former Nyeri Deputy Governor Dr. Caroline Karugu, who has been nominated to the Ministry of East Africa Community. Dr. Oluga Ouma has been fronted to replace Harry Kimtai as the PS in charge of medical services at the Ministry of Health. Others include Judith Pareno, nominated to Justice, Human Rights and Constitutional Affairs. Former Health CS Susan Nakumicha has bounced back and handed a lifeline. She has been appointed as Kenya's permanent representative to the UN Habitat based in Nairobi. The nominees will be vetted by the respective parliamentary committees to establish their suitability for the roles. Jeff Kirui, KTN.
Now, those changes in the government are meant to further accelerate implementation of the administration's bottom-up economic transformation agenda. So let's look at those nominated for appointment as principal secretaries. There are 14, and let's begin. The first one on the list is Dr. Jen Imbunya, nominated to the State Department of Public Service and Human Capital, that's under the Ministry of Public Service. Next is Regina Ombam, nominated to the State Department for Trade, Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry. Cyril Odede has been nominated to the State Department for Public Investments and Assets Management under the National Treasury and Economic Planning Ministry. Next in line is Dr. Caroline Karugu, who is the former Nyeri Deputy Governor and has been nominated to the State Department for East African Community Affairs. This is under the Ministry of EAC and SLs and Regional Development. Next in line is Dr. Frederick Ouma Oluga, former KMPDU Secretary General, nominated to the State Department of Medical Services and, of course, the Ministry of Health. Moving on to the next in line, Ahmed Ibrahim, who has been nominated to serve the National Government Coordination under the Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, that is Musalia Mudavadi. Next is former ODM nominated Senator Judith Pareno, who has also made the list. She's been nominated to serve the Justice, Human Rights and Constitutional Affairs in the Office of the Attorney General and State Department for Justice. Then we have Dr. Boniface Makoha, nominated under the State Department for Economic Planning under the Treasury. Next is Professor Abdul Razak Shaukat, nominated under the State Department for Science, Research and Innovation under the Ministry of Education. Next in line is Stephen Isaboke, who is nominated to the State Department for Broadcasting and Telecommunication under the Ministry of Communication, and of course he will be replacing Edward Kisiangani. Next is Michael Lenal Salon, nominated to the State Department for Devolution under the Office of the Deputy President. Fikirini Jacobs has been nominated to the State Department for Youth Affairs and the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports. Then we have Karen Achieng, who has been nominated to the State Department for Children Welfare Services under the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection. And lastly, we have Aiden Miller, who has been nominated to the State Department for Shipping and Maritime Affairs under the Ministry of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime. Now remember, the 14 PS nominees will appear before the National Assembly to be vetted by departmental committees.
Well, there you have it.